morning, guys. Today I'm going to go and show you how to use the TechPak template. We created this so that we can not only keep our designs pretty standard in terms of the information that we're providing to the factories. This helps us make sure that our tech packs are very detail oriented and we're not missing anything. But it also is a way for us to easily create a tech pack and not have to constantly create something from scratch. It offers new designers a way to put together a great tech pack to give to their factory, as long as they've got some basic understanding of garment construction and some basic illustrator skills. And it also, the way that we have put this together is that certain information will auto feed into various other pages. So it's also a great time-saving device as well. So as we're creating the tech pack, we're not constantly having to retype information in, or as we update it, we're not having to constantly enter in new information. So as you go through, you'll see certain things like design style, fabric content. So a lot of this stuff is on the cover page, and as you fill it in on the cover page, it's going to auto feed into some of these other pages here, just to kind of keep everything pretty consistent. I did go ahead and blank out some of the information that is in this tech pack so that I can go ahead and show you how it works. So the first page is our cover page. And this is where you're going to enter in most of your design information. And again, this is going to auto feed into other pages. So if you click here on the little arrow, you'll see that you have these different areas of where you can put the status of the project. So this is, if it's in a draft, if the designs have been approved. If designs have been approved and we're already done pattern, then maybe we're on to sampling. And so you can select where you're at in the process in here. So for now, we're just going to put design approved and design style number. You can put in whatever design style number, name, or whatever that you use for your particular designs. So for here, I'm going to go ahead and just use a 4-digit number. A lot of times I recommend that new brands come up with their own unique 6-digit way of naming their designs. And the reason for that is that if you decide later on to go ahead and implement a barcode system, there is a 6-digit number that you're going to get when you register as an apparel manufacturer, and that's something that is, legally required. So if you take that 6-digit number that you're assigned as a manufacturer, and then if you take your 6-digit unique design style number and you combine that together, you end up with the 12 digits required for a barcode. And so you've actually ended up creating a really easy to implement barcode system later on down the line. So for right now, we're just going to put in 1475. And if you've entered in this information correctly, it's now going to show up here as well. And just a minute ago, this where it said design style number was blank. So the other things right here, it says style description and fit description. Those were blank. And we're going to go ahead and fill those in, and I'll show you how that auto feeds into other parts of the tech pack as well. Okay, so right here for product, this is where we're going to enter just a generic description of the item. So this is a, V-neck, relaxed fit tee. Just something very, very basic. Oops, what is this? Let's see what it's doing here. I may have goofed something here. All right, so let's go here to design approved, design style number. Product is boyfriend fit short sleeves with back yoke. The style description, so this is where you're going to describe how you describe it in-house. So for this particular brand, this fit is their classic fit. It's their classic V-neck tee. They go ahead and they describe that fit description as a boyfriend fit or a slightly relaxed fit, as if you had put on your boyfriend's t-shirt. Other examples that you can put there is a classic 5-pocket jean, a jogger with inseam pockets. Whatever you put here is also going to fill in on other pages of the TechPak. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to clear these out, and I'm going to make sure that these are still working correctly. Okay, so our style number is there. All right, let's go back to our cover page and let's put in V-neck, short sleeve, tee. If I have an active filter, remove it, but I don't have an active filter. Okay, style description, we're going to put classic V-neck t-shirt. Fit description, we're going to put boyfriend fit. And this should, right here, see classic V-neck t-shirt. Fit description is boyfriend fit. And that has carried over onto our other pages. So our design approved, our style number is all there. Design approved, style number, design approved, style number. Okay, so it's all in there. Perfect. Okay, so also on our cover page, and this is going to be important in terms of like how you enter the information. So I'm going to clear this out so you can see where this goes. So this fabric information actually ends up feeding into here, into your materials page. And again, the purpose of it is that you don't have to constantly type everything in. It is important the order that you put this fabric information in, because that's going to determine where it's going to feed into the materials page. So the very first line is going to be the name of the fabric. And for this particular fabric, it was a bamboo spandex jersey, and the jersey is the type of fabric that we have in there. Actually, I'm going to put bamboo jersey knit. Okay. And then the second line has to be the composition. So it's what is the fabric made out of? And you're just going to go ahead and you're going to enter that information in here. And I'm going to go over here to the materials page, and you'll notice that fabric content, it filled in the type of fabric. The content, it's going to put in the content that you put here. So the next line is going to be the type of knit or weave for there. And you'll notice that it puts it in right here. And then the very last one is going to be the weight of your fabric. And that's often expressed in either GSM, which is grams per square meter, or it's listed as ounces. Either one is fine. It's going to go ahead and put it here in the weight column. You will still have to input information for the width, who your vendor is, the colors that you're going to use, the quantity of yards that you're going to need, where that fabric is being used. So in the placement, this is going to be, is it part of the main body? If you have like a contrast, is that fabric used for the contrast on your design? And then the status of those materials. Have they been ordered? Are they being shipped? Are they in stock? You know, where are they in the production process? So going back to the cover page, here we're going to list the colors, and this is actually going to feed into here where our colorways are listed. So as an example, I'm just going to put in white, black, navy, I think I saw an orange, I saw an aqua, I saw coral. So as I put these in here, if I go over to my flat sketch, it's automatically putting those colors in here. So again, I don't have to type it. I do have to make sure that I have my visual aid so that the factory can see and they can match the colors with the illustrations. But this way I can go ahead and I don't have to spend time typing all of that up. It's going to go ahead and auto feed it in for me. Your sizes is just a size range of that particular brand. Allocation, this is where it gets a little bit tricky for people. So this is how you're going to break up your order. So if you have, say, you have the example of a size small, medium, and large, and your items only come in those three sizes, just for simplicity's sake, if you were to order 100 pieces and your allocation is 1 to 1, that means you're telling the factory that for every quantity that I order, I want two mediums for every one small and every one large. So if you order 100 pieces, they're going to break that up into 25 size small, 50 size medium, and 25 size large. So that tells the factory how to break up your order. And as a first run, you may not know exactly how you want to allocate this. If you have some sales data from before, if you're a retailer who is looking to create their own private label, then you're going to understand, you're going to get a feel already of, what size the order, what kind of size breakdown you need to order, so that way you can go ahead and make sure that you don't have extra inventory sitting around. If you have that kind of sales data, you already know how to allocate it. If you're a startup, don't worry about getting this perfect. You'll figure that out as you grow. Okay, and then this is just like date of last update, changes. So like for your first draft, I would put first draft, the initials of the person that worked on it. Here I would say like actually write out as best you can what changes were made. So if on the second draft, if the things that were changed were maybe sizing information, I would go ahead and put that in there, like sizing information updated, along with the person's initials. And that helps you keep track of what changes were made to the TechPak when. And that way, if there's an issue later on, you know who made changes and when they made them. So moving on to the materials page, since we filled out everything correctly, our status is in there, the design style number is in there, our fabric content, all of this stuff is automatically put in for us. So we do have to put in the width of our fabric, who our vendor is, the colors we're ordering, the quantity, where it's going, and the status. Going further down in your trim information thread, if you have any special thread, any special color that you want them to use, you need to enter that here. How much and location, again, where is it being used? So if you have like a certain color that you want used just for top stitching on a certain part of your garment, this is where you would list that information. Trims and hardware, so think of hardware as buttons. Trims can be lace trims, it can be any kind of decorative detail that you have that requires a special purchase of a certain type of trim, a certain type of button or rivet or anything like that. It could be a clasp, it could be anything like that that is needed to create your garment. You're going to list those out here, and you're going to put the description of the item, how many you need, and location, where is it going. Zipper or other closures, again, what type of zipper, how long is it, what kind of teeth does it have. All of that information is detailed as you can. The more specific you are, the more likely it is that your agent, whoever is sourcing the information for you, if the factory is sourcing for you, whoever it is, the more detail you give them, the better they're going to be at getting exactly what you're looking for and help bring that garment to life. Quantity, so you're going to list how many that you need, and then location. And then when it comes to labels, there are usually 3. This particular garment has 4. So you have your size label, you have your main label, your logo label, and your care label. How many you need of each, and where each one is located. By law, you have to have the size label and you have to have the care label. So you have to let people know um, what size that the garment is, and then you also have to let them know how to take care of that label. And there's some other legal requirements in terms of your registration number, in terms of where the garment was manufactured, other things like the makeup of the fabric. So like here where we said that our fabric is 95% bamboo and 5% spandex, we have to make sure that that stuff is on our care label. And I'll try and do a post on that so that you guys can easily look that up on the website. But by law, your size label and your care labels have to be on there. Your main label, your logo label, anything like that, those are all extras. and you can put them on there for branding purposes. Then we're going to move on to our flat sketch. So as you can see, this has the design approved, it has our design style number, it's already filled in our classic v-neck, our fit description, which this is going to come from your fit diary, and I'll try and do a blog post on that to help you understand what a fit diary is and why it's important. So we have our flat sketch of our front and back of the shirt. This tells the factory this is what it should look like when it's all done. Our design detail note. So this is any kind of details that we can think of that we want the factory to know in terms of type of stitching, types of hems, all kinds of finishing details, construction details, things, there's a yoke here, where is the care label going, all of this stuff. And then we have colorways listed, so your colorways will be in there too so that they can see what it looks like. For this one, it's not a big deal because these are all solids, but if you had something more complex where you had maybe 2 or 3 different colors with the contrast on each design, maybe the body was one color and the sleeves were a different color, or maybe the sleeves had a cuff and the cuff was a different color. Maybe the trim, the binding was a different color. Showing that visual element of what materials go where helps the factory understand what fabrics to use where. Always, always, always give visual aids wherever possible. Your fit photos. So this has already filled in our status, our design style, our style description, and our fit description. This is just where we're going to put in photos of similar items that help explain to the pattern maker what kind of a look that we're going for. So this is photos of similar items. So this shows the back yoke like they're going for. This shows the overall silhouette. And you put notes from the photos. So this is where you're going to document anything that you want from these photos. So, it says has scoop bottom hem, see photo above, has yoke in the back as shown in photo. And then T has V-neck instead of scoop neck, see flat sketch for details. So this tells the pattern maker, hey, I want this silhouette, but I do not want this scoop neck. I want a V-neck instead. So you're going to tell them what you do as well as what you do not want from these photos, so they understand what it is that you're referring to by those fit photos. Your fit style from your fit library, that comes from your fit diary that I mentioned before. And so this will kind of pull reference from that, and it helps the sample maker and the pattern maker understand how you want that item to fit when someone's wearing it on the body. So this says relaxed fit is not form fitting, see photo above. So then this kind of shows you, what kind of overall look that they're going for. Okay, your construction details. So this is where you're going to tell them how to sew your garment together. So it's important that you understand a little bit about garment construction. If you have basic sewing skills, you should be able to get through this. It's going to tell them what the seam allowance is, what kind of stitching that you want. Down here, this is where you're going to definitely want someone who's a little more technical and understands factory construction. This is going to communicate to the factory exactly, what type of stitch it is. Visual aids as well as the number, where it's used, how it's used. And this is really, really good information for the factory. If they have any questions at all, they can look down here and they can understand what kind of stitching it is that you're looking for. And there are some factories that really prefer these sewing instructions, especially if there's factories out there that have they have social good associated with them. A lot of times they're retraining workers from other industries where, maybe there's like one in Colorado where there's an area where people aren't mining anymore, and so they're taking these miners and they're retraining them and teaching them how to sew. And so in those kinds of environments, it's really important to have these basic sewing instructions so that way the factory floor and their workers can understand how it is that you want that garment sewn together. Construction visual aids. So this is where you're going to put any kind of visual aids, anything that you think needs to be highlighted in terms of construction. I've seen this page used for specific types of lining. I've seen it used a lot with outerwear. If there's a certain type of construction where they want maybe some kind of an insulated um, like padding in between the lining and the outer part of the jacket. If there's a certain way that they want the facing done inside, if there's a special way that they want the pockets put together, I've seen all of that used on this page. And this is where you're going to provide either a photo or a 2D sketch of that type of construction. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to list like how that's put together. You're going to give them written instructions. It's also used a lot for label placement. Since this is just a basic t-shirt and there isn't a whole lot of technical details in this, that's all that this is being used for. It says label type, again the placement, and then any key details. So on this one, as you can see, there's the logo label and there's the size. So the size label should be tucked under the main label. Main label should be sewn on at center back as shown. Key information in terms of how you want the care label to be. Label should be sewn onto the left side seam as shown in the image. And then this one adds a logo label on the bottom hem. And so it tells you again, make sure you're tucking in the ends of the logo label so that the raw edges are not exposed. So over the bottom hem onto the outside of the shirt. And so that gives them all the information that they need to understand how to sew those labels on there. This I put in here as a body measurement, and this has been helpful twofold. So it's helped people who are just starting out, who don't necessarily know what the basic measurements are that we need to put together, to communicate the design as well as what size body that pattern needs to fit to the pattern maker. But it also helps the pattern maker in understanding how those measurements were taken. So these are just some basic measurements. This is how we took those measurements. This is the first page of it. There's a second page which covers some other measurements. There are 17 measurements in total that are just kind of the basic measurements that we take. Depending on what your garment is, you may need to take additional measurements. So if you had, say, a blouse that it had a 3/4 sleeve and the sleeve came down to, just past the elbow, you're going to want to definitely get a measurement from the shoulder down to the elbow. And then you're also going to want to get another measurement of the sleeve down to the elbow so that the pattern maker understands, okay, if this is a 3/4 sleeve, if they want this to end, 2 inches past the elbow, elbow comes to here, I need to make it 2 inches longer than that. So it's those kinds of other information that you're going to definitely want to put in here. Because of this particular top, and it has the V-neck, one of the measurements that's not in here that you're going to want to put is how far down does that V go? So how far from center front do you want that V to drop? So that's an additional, like maybe you're going to want a measurement from center front down to the apex or the fullest part of the bust. That kind of information will help the pattern maker understand the various measurements of the body and where you want things to go. So this is our grade rules, and this is set up, you can adjust this. This is already set up for one brand in particular. The pink tells the sample maker, the pattern maker, the factory that this is your sample size. And the way this works is you put in the body measurements of your fit model and always get the ideal measurements for your middle size. So you go ahead and you can put in all of their measurements in here, and then it's going to auto grade those out to the various sizes. Now, if you don't want to have an extra small, if you don't want to have a 3XL, if you don't want, just delete those. And if the grading doesn't look right because there is no standard in sizing, You can go ahead and you can just click on these up here and you can adjust the grade rules. So if I have a brand that is only offering sizes small, medium, and large, then I need to put in here in my pink the measurements for my medium fit model. And then I need to delete these, and I need to delete these other sizes. This becomes my large, this becomes my small, and it should auto grade my sizing out where I want it. So don't feel like you have to use these. You know, there are some brands that like people to have more of an athletic look. There are other brands that prefer someone who's a little bit more curvy. Whatever your brand ideal body style is absolutely fine. The only key thing here is you definitely want to pull these measurements from an actual fit model who has the ideal body shape of your customer and who is your middle size. So you'll have to think about what your middle size is going to be. And that's not middle as in medium, that's middle as in your size range. As you can see, this particular brand went from an extra small up to a 3XL. So their middle size happened to be a large and not a medium. So go ahead and you can adjust those. And then when you come here to your size specs, this is the page that tells the pattern maker you know, how long to make the various measurements. So when they make the pattern for the front of the shirt, they need to make sure that from the HPS, which we call the high point shoulder, that's the highest point on the shoulder, down, the longest it needs to be is 27.5 inches, and that's based on our large size. And then across the shoulders, you know, what is that measurement? What does that have to look like? So these are all of the measurements for it. As you go through your fitting process, these numbers are going to get updated. So after you do your first fit session, if you make any changes to these, you're going to go ahead and put that information here. After your second fit session, you're going to put them here. Once you have your approved specs, that's what's going to go here. So if that happens after your first fit, great, put in those approved specs here. That happens after your second fit, great, you know, put in those approved specs here. This point of measurement relates to this page. So if you notice, this says A, body length from high point shoulder. If you come here, you'll see that this line for A goes from the high point shoulder down to the longest part of the shirt. So it's telling you like, hey, this for the longest point of the shirt, it needs to be, you know, 27.5 inches. C is your measurement across, so that's going to go from here. It's like kind of armpit to armpit. And so if you go here, C across front, 5 inches down from high point shoulder. So this tells you the actual measurements. This is the visual aid to show you what area of this shirt that each one of those measurements stands for. And it's just a tool for the pattern maker to understand how to make your design. Now, I do have in here 2 different measurement pages, and what you're going to use is going to depend on what kind of garment that you're making. So if you're making a top, you're going to use most likely the tops. If you're going to use the bottoms, then you're most likely going to use the bottoms measurement. If you're using a skirt or if you're using a dress, then you might have to kind of pull some of these measurements together in order to create the right set of measurements that you need. So chances are you're only going to need one of these. Use the one that you need, pull the measurements you need, and then delete the other one. And this is a tool that's used after you have finalized those specs. So after you finalize those specs, your approved specs comes here. Again, the pink is your sample size. Your approved specs come here, and then it gets graded out to your other sizes. And this tells your pattern maker how to create those different sizes based off of your sample size. And then your guide to measurement, this is your written instructions on how to take those measurements. So this is useful for both the pattern maker as well as this, your factory floor. When they finish that garment, those are the measurements that it has to have. And if it doesn't have these measurements here, then something has gone wrong. So we're covering our bases here by making sure that we have given them the actual measurements, that we have the visual aid for those measurements, and then we have our written instructions for those measurements. So we've covered all of our bases here, and just again, the more information that you give to the factory, the better that they're going to be at producing your garment, then the fewer revisions that you're going to have to make. And then finishing and packaging instructions, you don't really need to worry about this until you're actually into production. And this is where, if your factory is going to finish your garment for you, so if they're going to, steam it or press it, iron it, if they're going and, fold it and put it in, say like a poly bag, this tells them how to do it before they send it to you. So if you want it, the sleeves folded in on your shirt and your shirt folded only in half, or if you want your shirt folded in thirds, however that you want that presentation to be, this is where you're gonna add those visual aids as well as the written instructions on how to do that. And that's not something that's important unless your factory is finishing up and doing your packaging for you, and is something that can wait until you're at the production ready level. So that's how to use our template for our TechPak. Ideally, your middle measurements here will auto feed from here once you have those approved specs. And we've set it up in just such a way that you don't have to really enter a lot of information twice. We've done our best to kind of look at and see where the information is entered twice, and seeing what we can do to go ahead and set it up in such a way that it will automatically do that for you. If you do have any questions on how to use the TechPak template, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@apparelbooster.com, and we'll do our best to get back to you.